The Confessions of Saint Augustine, Book 5, Chapter 8 following. And yet, refusing to return without me, I scarcely persuaded her to stay that night in a place hard by our ship, where was an oratory in memory of the blessed Cyprian. That night I privately departed, but she was not behind in weeping and prayer. And what, O Lord, was she with so many tears asking of you, but that you would not suffer me to sail? But you, in the depth of your counsels and hearing the main point of her desire, regarded not what she then asked, that you might make me what she ever asked. The wind blew and swelled our sails, and withdrew the shore from our sight. And she on the morrow was there, frantic with sorrow and with complaints and groans, filled your tears. You who did then disregard them, while through my desires you were hurrying me to end all desire, and the earthly part of her affection to me was chastened by the allotted scourge of sorrows. For she loved my being with her as mothers do, but much more than many, and she knew not how great joy you were about to work for her out of my absence. She knew not, therefore did she weep and wail, and by this agony there appeared in her the inheritance of Eve, with sorrow seeking what in sorrow she had brought forth. And yet, after accusing my treachery and hard-heartedness, she betook herself again to intercede to you for me, went to her wonted place, and I to Rome. Chapter 9. And lo, there was I received by the scourge of bodily sickness, and I was going down to hell, carrying all the sins which I had committed, both against you and myself and others, many and grievous, over and above that bond of original sin, whereby we all die in Adam. For you had not forgiven me any of these things in Christ, nor had he abolished by his cross the enmity which by my sins I had incurred with you. For how should he, by the crucifixion of a phantasm, which I believed him to be? So true then was the death of my soul, as that of his flesh seemed to me false, and how true the death of his body, so false was the life of my soul, which did not believe it. And now, the fever heightening, I was parting and departing forever. For had I then parted hence, whither had I departed, but into fire and torments, such as my misdeeds deserved in the truth of your appointment? And this she knew not, yet in absence prayed for me. But you everywhere present heard her where she was, and where I was had compassion upon me, that I should recover the health of my body, thou frenzied as yet in my sacrilegious heart. For I did not in all that danger desire your baptism, and I was better as a boy when I begged it of my mother's piety, as I have before recited and confessed. But I had grown up to my own shame, and I madly scoffed at the prescripts of your medicine, who would not suffer me, being such, to die a double death. With which wound had my mother's heart been pierced, it could never be healed, For I can't express the affection she bore to me, and with how much more vehement anguish she was now in labour of me in the spirit than at her childbearing in the flesh. I see not then how she should have been healed had such a death of mine stricken through the bowels of her love. And where would have been those her so strong and unceasing prayers, unintermitting to you alone? But would you, God of mercies, despise the contrite and humble heart of that chaste and sober widow, so frequent in almsdeeds, so full of duty and service to your saints, no day intermitting the oblation at your altar, twice a day, morning and evening, without any intermission, coming to your church, not for idle tattlings and old wives' fables, but that she might hear you in your discourses, and you her in her prayers. Could you despise and reject from your aid the tears of such an one, wherewith she begged of you not gold or silver, nor any mutable or passing good, but the salvation of her son's soul? You by whose gift she was such? Never, Lord, ye. You were at hand, and were hearing and doing in that order wherein you had determined before that it should be done. Far be it that you should deceive her in your visions and answers. Some whereof I have, some I have not mentioned, which she laid up in her faithful heart, and ever praying, urged upon you, as your own handwriting. For you, because your mercy endures forever, vouchsafed to those to whom you forgave all their debts to become also a debtor by your promises.